This is Frank Islam, Chairman and CEO of FY Investment Group and your host of Washington Current Review, where we interview leading voices from business and politics that impact you, the viewer. Today, our guest is Christine Chang, and she is the Executive Director of APIA Vote. Welcome.
Hello.
Thank you very much for coming to the show.
Thank you.
From the outset, I wanted you to let me know, let the audience know, what does the APIA stands for?
Right. So APIA Vote is Asian and Pacific Islander American Vote. We're a national organization that works and collaborates with local organizations across the country to increase voter participation and civic participation every year. So, this year, we believe this has been the largest mobilization effort in history for the Asian American Pacific Islander community. We had over 85 nonprofits all around the country in 20 different states doing voter registration, education, get out the vote activities.
Wow. Now, President Obama was a recipient of your generosity and kindness because of the fact that the other side didn't do very well, and President got close to 73% of the vote from the Asian American Pacific Islander. Why is this number so high? And is this something new or a new trend? And what does the other party need to do to reach out to get that kind of a vote?
Right. Well, for API Vote, we are a nonpartisan organization, but what we have seen is that candidates like President Obama, if they're able to articulate and support the issues that the community cares about.
Tell me, what issues do you care about besides immigration?
So according to our polls, it's actually quite similar to the general public in terms of economy, education, and healthcare.
Great.
So
immigration is not on the top of the issue?
Immigration is actually interwoven into all those issues.
Okay.
And that's why still immigration is a top issue for the community.
Okay.
So with that, it's really about how many times do they actually touch our communities. For instance, here in our own backyard in Virginia, in our post-election polling, we actually saw that the parties actually reached out to the Asian American community and the voters about 61% versus nationwide it's only 31% because Virginia is actually a battleground state.
And President won.
Yes.
Thanks to your help and the Hispanic voters.
Right.
And the woman.
And
the young.
Actually, because of a diverse coalition, I believe that Democrats actually did quite well this round.
Oh, even Senator Kaine won.
Right.
So hopefully the next time around the trend could be in favor of Terry McAuliffe if he runs for the governor.
Well, the trend in the last 3 presidential cycles is that the Democrats have continued to actually increase their vote share.
Now, there has been a lot of coverage in the media about this, your organization. Why is this a new trend, and why is that?
Well, we're really excited.
One more thing. There's a lot of talk about African American vote, which is 11% of the population, 13%. The Hispanic vote, which is about 20% of the population. They constitute about 33% of the population. And the Asian American constitute what percentage of the population in the United States? Is it about 3.5 or 4.5?
It's actually closer to the 5%.
It is close to 5%.
Right.
So they are the major, what I consider the population to reckon with.
Well, nowadays, if you look at a lot of congressional districts and even local elections, we're actually sizable. It could actually be 5% to actually 13% of that constituent base. So many times when you're looking at local elections, they're really looking at their own backyards and how large the population is. So with the Asian American Pacific Islander community growing in new destinations like Virginia and Nevada, where they're considered battleground states for presidential.
Even California, Texas, some areas of Texas also, right?
Right, but not in terms of battleground states.
Oh, battleground states.
Right.
Yeah, I guess California is always going to be blue and the Texas is going to be red.
Right, but at the same time, we don't want to ignore those populations because of local elections and local congressional
Very well
races.
said.
But for the presidential, it's all about, they were really focused on both the Romney and the Obama campaign were actually focused on Virginia and Nevada for the Asian American.
Well, there was the 2 battleground states.
Correct.
And the President won. Thanks to your support. Thank you for leadership. Tell me a little bit about what was the APIA Vote's main objective role in this election. You got to get the registration, you got to get the people in the polling booth, and so on and so forth. What else did you guys do?
Well, we also ensure that our folks actually are well trained, because early on we actually saw voter registration rates were at 55% nationwide, okay?
Which is pretty
for
low.
our community, very low. So many times, traditionally, elections only focusing on turnout in the last 6 to 8 weeks. Working with nonprofits, we worked with them in January and February to actually train to focus on voter registration. That's the first step. Once our communities actually register, they actually have a quite comparable turnout rate of 86%. And here in Virginia, according to our post-election poll, the Asian Americans actually turned out at 88%.
88%, that's pretty. So is this going to be the trend, the 88% voter registration, and how many people went to vote? 88% of the Asian Pacific Islander?
We don't have that data.
You do not
yet.
have that data.
This is just most off of our post-election polling.
Okay.
So that was 88%. We'll get that in a couple of months.
I'll be interested to know, I'm sure the audience will be interested to know, in terms of how much the voter registration is translated into the, people going to the booth and voting for it.
Right. Well, we anticipate, because this was the largest mobilization effort, that voter registration and voter participation would have increased here in 2012.
Now let's talk about polling.
Yes.
Your organization conducted polling. So polling is basically talk about the issues that they're both concerned about it, whether they're going to vote for and who they're going to vote. So what was the important lessons have you learned from this data?
Well, first of all, we knew traditional pollsters would not necessarily include Asian Americans into their polls.
And sometimes the pollster target at different types of the audience, and then they publish the data. Gallup was a good example. They published, and they were at the last minute even they're saying they're going to, Mr. Romney is going to win the elections.
And also, traditionally, it's only in English. So the polling that we actually commissioned was also in different Asian languages.
Oh, okay.
And, so the first poll that we commissioned was with the Lake Research Partners, and this was conducted with the Asian American Justice Center and the Asian American Institute, and it was released of May of 2012. If you would Google Asian American voters before then, there was no mention of the Asian American electorate. It was only when we finally got some data out there that finally, not only the political parties, but also the news medias finally started thinking about our community and our base of voters. Then the National Asian American Survey started to release their information during the summer and then even October. And what we found out is between those two different polls, there's still a sizable undecided voter. Many of our community members, even though 73% went with Obama, they don't necessarily think of themselves as Democrat or Republican or conservative or progressive. They mostly think of them as independent. So really, both parties still need a lot of work to do if they want to capture the community's vote on a regular basis.
What the other party needs to do to reaching out to this type of the organization and audience?
Right. I think it goes beyond now about just showing up at events and taking photo
I would
ops.
say so, yes.
It's really about addressing the issues that we care about. As I said, our issues are also quite similar to the mainstream voter of economy, education, and healthcare, but it's also about the nuances and how immigration is actually interwoven into those issues.
So what does the party need to do to reach out to Asian Americans?
Well, first of all,
beside getting the money and beside getting the what I consider the pictures that you talk about, the photo op, what else they have to do in order for them to reach it out to the Asian Americans?
Well, I think they also need to consider it shouldn't be outreach every 4 years or every 2 years when they're being elected.
It's a continuous process.
It needs to be happening every year, that when they have town halls, when they have meetings, or if they even have a meeting about a specific issue, that they also include the Asian American and Pacific Islander community.
So it's a continuous journey.
Of course. It's like if they actually reach out to us, then our voters will tend to vote more often.
And a lot of people got elected in Congress from your organizations, and a couple of people from Indian origin. One of them, Mr. Bera, got elected from the Congress if I understand, from the California. And there's a woman who's from Hawaii, Tulsi Gabbard, and she's not of Indian origin, but she changed her faith to the Hinduism, and therefore she was elected. And so tell me a little bit about I talked about the Indian American, tell me a little bit about the other part of the Asian American who got elected in the Congress.
Right, so has been a historical year. We actually have now 13 Asian American Pacific Islanders who are members of Congress who are voting.
Are most of them from Hawaii and California?
No, it's actually quite diverse.
Oh,
That's
great.
very exciting. Tammy Duckworth, an Iraq war vet.
Well, she's the only half.
Now
Is she half?
She's Chinese Thai.
She's a half Chinese and half Caucasian.
And Thai.
Oh, Thai.
And so
she's a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful woman.
She's a great advocate, and she's the first Asian American to represent in Illinois.
The state of Illinois.
You have Grace Meng, the first one ever to actually represent New York. As you said, Tulsi Gabbard is, she's of Hindu descent, but I mean of religion, faith. And then also Mazie Hirono.
She's from Hawaii.
She's actually now in the Senate, and she's the first Buddhist.
Oh, that is correct. So we have a representation of all kinds of a culture as well as all kinds of faith, and that's what America is all about. It shows the diversity of the America.
Yes, and it also shows the beauty of the diversity even within our community, right? And also for the fact that now we have a number of them that we're able to work with them to ensure that our voices are also being heard and our opinions.
Isn't it Judy Chow? Or
Judy Chu has been
she's from California.
She's been our executive director of the Congressional Asian Pacific American Caucus. And Mike Honda continues to be the vice chair of the Democratic National Committee as well. So it's been great. Not only has it become more diverse, but those that have already been in Congress, they're actually rising into leadership positions within their own political parties. And
we also have two people in the cabinet. And Gary Locke was the Department of Commerce, and now he's an ambassador to China. And also the fellow, and please forgive me his name, he's the head of the VA.
So we've actually had 3 secretaries
what's the third one?
That President Obama had appointed. So originally, first it was Secretary Locke over at Commerce, who's now the ambassador for China. Now we also still have Secretary General Shinseki, who is over at Department of Veterans Affairs. And then we also have Secretary Chu, who is at Department of Energy.
Very well said.
So it's been very exciting. It should be interesting to see as they go through transition is like what other new talent will actually be tapped.
Well, the administration is looking for people who have the skills and knowledge and experience, and obviously the diversity does help.
Exactly.
But these people have something to give to our nation, their experience, they're knowledgeable, they know their stuff.
I mean, for us, it's the people that we actually put up for political appointments, it really is about that they are qualified. And but it is additional assets in terms of the diversity that they bring in terms of viewpoints.
And that's what America is all about.
Yes,
it's showing a different face of America to the world.
That's why it's been really exciting to work on these projects to actually see younger generation get involved with voter registration and participate in the campaigns, even in a nonpartisan effort, because many of them then get inspired to actually take a career in public service, and they can actually be the next member of Congress, the next Judy Chu or Ami Bera, right?
What kind of a barriers and the boundary did the Asian Americans voter face in this country?
Well, this round, and also what we've seen as a trend
besides the language barrier,
is actually around election protection. So they've actually made it quite difficult sometimes because they keep changing the laws at the last moment about what type of voter identification you need to show at the polls. For instance, in Georgia, we actually had one of our local nonprofits. They were registering new voters that just became U.S. citizens at the naturalization ceremonies, and over like 200 of them were actually turned away on. They were saying that they didn't have proper identification and they couldn't process their voter registration applications. So there, even though they just went through the ceremony for the naturalization, the databases and for Georgia State were not updated. So
what do people have to do to get to?
Unfortunately, this was not resolved by the elections.
Okay, so we lost those 200 votes.
So we lost those votes. So there's actually something that still needs to be done in terms of working with our states to ensure that these types of things don't happen in the future. But also, it is also the issue of language barrier. For instance, in Michigan, the Bengali community actually had grown tremendously, that now by law, you actually have to have translated ballots for that community. But they actually had a lot of issues about the voter offices actually not reaching out to the community in time and making sure that they knew that these items were accessible to them.
The Bengali community is pretty large in that part of the world. In Michigan, I didn't know that.
It's large enough that where they also have enough limited English proficient communities, so that way they actually have to provide that for them.
So does the polling data had a breakdown of what kind of Asian American? We got all kinds of people in this East Asian, West Asian, all kinds of people. Do they have breakdown by nation, by country?
Well, the polling that we actually got involved with, especially with the National Asian American Survey and the post-election polling, actually does provide that. So for instance, for the Indian community, when you look at all the subsections of the Asian American community, Indian community actually supported Obama a lot stronger than any other ethnic group within this polling.
Close to 80% or something?
Correct.
Which is pretty high.
It's very high.
So if somebody wants to get hold of you, Christine, how they get hold of you?
Well, API Vote, we actually are looking for new partners and continuous people to actually who are interested in doing this work. You can reach us at www.apiavote.org. And, you know, we're also interested in, we're starting a fellows program in terms of getting younger people and college graduates who are interested in working in a campaign.
Internship?
Like more of like a 6-month
That's a great thing to do.
So that way they can actually work on a campaign from start to finish.
Yeah, that's wonderful. This is how they get the younger generations to be engaged and involved and well informed.
Right, and many times they're actually the conduit to actually ensure that the older generation who are maybe limited English proficient actually understand what's actually happening as well.
Well, that's a great thing to do. You're doing a great job, but thank you very much for coming. We appreciated that, you taking the time to come and talk to us. I'm sure the audience has appreciated the conversation that we had together.
Great, thank you very much.
This is our show. This is Frank Islam wishing you a great week.